Blenders, and welcome to episode number 247 of ReelBlend, a podcast that wonders, Jake, do you know M. Night Shyamalan's favorite Chris Hemsworth movie?
Oh God, I can't do this. I just woke up from a nap.
He has a terrific, I mean, it's a great Chris Hemsworth film. It's
Gabe
M. Night
knows?
Shyamalan's favorite. Well, I want Jake to tell me.
Oh, is it Thor Ragnarok at the cabin?
It's even better.
Actually really clever. It's
really
way more
good.
clever than what I have. It's a knock at the cabin in the woods. That's
That's if I'm being honest with you.
Hemsworth.
Those are both good.
They're both great. Yeah.
They're both
Jake's
great.
was
is
better.
like a great example of the movie title mashup, though. Like it's a real movie title mashup, which I
Right.
You know what? And I'm so damn proud of mine, and it wasn't the right answer.
Yours is really good.
It was insane.
Gabe, edit that and just go with Jake's. Go with Jake's.
I'll put Jake's head over your body. Like, oh yeah, that was mine.
See, this is why you should be watching the YouTube video, people. The YouTube video.
Well, we'll get to that plug
The VFX.
in a heartbeat.
Hey, Sean, did you hear about
Oh, Jesus Christ.
M. Night Shyamalan's favorite Ace of Base song?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, I saw the signs.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well done.
I love me some Ace of Base.
Me too. I love I saw the signs. Yeah.
All right, on this week, DC
I miss
Studios.
those. As much as I hate them, I miss that in the show.
DC Studios has actual plans that we're going to react to. We review Knock at the Cabin, and M. Night Shyamalan returns to the show to discuss his new film, Knock at the Cabin, which we are going to review in full detail later on in the show. Let me introduce the boys. Well, first off, I'm Sean O'Connell, the managing editor here at Cinema Blend, and one of the co-hosts of the ReelBlend podcast, joined as always, by Jake Hamilton of Fox 32 in Chicago, who is dancing to I Saw the Signs, I'm going to imagine. Right now.
It's in my head now. Kevin made a huge mistake.
It's a great song.
I can't
used to
sing
have
it,
the
or we'll
cassette.
get-
I had the cassette tape when I was a kid.
To pay money for that. Tom Hanks taught me that Playtone does not afford any of the songs that you sing on ReelBlend. And Kevin McCarthy of Fox 5 in Washington, D.C. Hi, Kev. How are you?
Hi, Sean. Good to see you. I guess I'll be seeing you in a couple weeks, and we'll explain why shortly.
Oh, yes, we will. I'll jump to that right now before I get to the housekeeping bits. I had a book signing in Charlotte this past weekend.
How'd it go?
Well, phenomenal. And what was great about it is that legitimately half of the people who showed up were ReelBlend listeners as well too. Like I can't
That's
tell you
so
how many
cool.
people.
You sent some videos of
my mom was there.
Your mom was there. She wore multiple
You kept
masks.
rotating in the line, with wigs.
I was like, this book is signed already, Miss McCarthy. Please. I can't tell you how many people, because we did a Q&A thingamabob with a friend of mine, Colleen Odegaard, who hosted it for me, and then we did the signing, and I sat at a table and people came up, and legitimately half the people who came up were like, can't tell you how much I love ReelBlend, listen to it every week. People came in from like Knoxville, Tennessee, Greenville, South Carolina, and they were all listeners of the show. So I want to thank everybody who came out and supported not just the book signing, but who listens to the show and supports us on a weekly basis. And then I want to pimp the fact that I'm coming to DC and I'm going to be hanging out with Kev, and me and Kev are going to be doing something at the AMC theaters February 11th at the AMC Tyson's Corner. So if you want more details on that, go to my website. I have a website now. It's called Sean O'Connell Books, and it has information on the signings. So,
And it's a great theater, and this is not a plug at all. I just love that mall because I live closer to it. But there's a great restaurant in there that I recommend people to go to before or after called Coastal Flats, which I took Sean to before we saw a movie together that you came up here for. Was that Black Panther?
Wakanda Forever. Yes, and the food was outstanding.
Yeah, not a plug. I just love that. But Sean's been to that. We've been to that mall before together. Great theater. They have really good IMAX and Dolby theaters there. I don't know what theater number we're going to be in, but yeah, come on out.
Probably a small one.
No, I'm excited. We're going to do a Q&A, sign some books, and it's going to be a good time, man.
And April with Chicago and Jakey is going to be there, and that may become a ReelBlend hangout. We're gonna discuss if Gabe can make it up there. So we'll see. If you're watching us on YouTube,
but Sean, you're paying me, but not Jake, right?
Correct.
Thousands of dollars.
Yes. A lot of it. So much money. Thank you for watching us on YouTube. Go down, hit subscribe, turn on your notifications. We're at youtube.com/ReelBlend podcast. In addition, we have a premium episode that gives you even more of us on Mondays, and a newsletter twice a week, and an ad-free version of the show.
Not twice a week.
Once
I'm
every
sorry,
other week. Twice a
Every
month.
other week.
There we go.
Yes, thank you. Twice a month. God, I couldn't do twice a week.
I was gonna say,
I
I was
barely
like,
do 2 times a month. It's a bit of a stretch.
You're like, I don't know what to say, folks. I'm out of ideas.
If you want to sign up for premium, head to the description where you are listening right now. All right, we have a great interview. Because of my book signing, I was not able to attend the interview. So let me just quick turn it over to you guys. Jakey, tell us about sitting down with M. Night Shyamalan yet again, and this time in person, because last time he was on was virtual.
Well, there's a cool little thing that happens, and Sean, you've been a part of it as well. You weren't a part of it this day, and it's that moment. Now, M. Night has been on the show before, and we've all individually spoken with him before. But there's this moment that happens, and Kevin, you saw it, and it's that moment where after we individually get someone for TV, and they know who we are, and they know the kind of questions we ask. When we come back around in the afternoon to get him for ReelBlend. And there's that moment where the talent goes, oh, this makes sense that you guys would be together on a show. And Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong. We got that. When he goes, okay, all right. And almost in the Tom Hanks way or the dude from X-Men that when we were all in London together. Yeah, Ty Sheridan. When we walked in and he was like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. And I honestly do take that as the ultimate compliment. And Kevin, I don't know about you. To me, that's the absolute best way to sit down and start an interview in person.
Yeah, and also shout out to Glass Engine who recorded the interview. They did a really cool job.
Nolan.
His last name is Nolan. He's awesome, and he did our Jordan Peele interview as well. And they always set us up with these really cool mics. But Jake and I sat down. He had a great time. He wanted to extend the interview, and there's some really cool bits of information in here, and some non-answers, which actually were funny as well. So.
This is a spoiler-free conversation. I want to let everybody know as well, too, so you can listen to it prior to going into Knock at the Cabin, and we're going to discuss Knock at the Cabin in a little bit. So without further ado, this is the ReelBlend interview. Following up, once again, with a friend of the show, M. Night Shyamalan talking Knock at the Cabin.
All right, welcome back to ReelBlend, my friend. Good to see you.
Great to see you guys.
Awesome.
You guys look sharp.
Well, we knew you were going to be here.
Yeah.
And I'm usually the suit guy. I direct in suits and everything, so I went cash this time. Now you're making me feel bad.
I do want to ask you, because you mentioned something just now, because Christopher Nolan directs in suits. I think Kubrick did as well. Like, was that a choice you made early on?
Yeah, I've been doing it for a while, and all of Servant and last.
Old?
Not old.
Oh, I was about to say, I'm picturing you on the beach in a three-piece.
Not old. That one, that was, it's like 95 degrees on the beach. No, but it's just for me even, it means approaching cinema with respect, and that you're coming. It's something that I have to earn to be there on that stage. And it makes I believe it makes the crew and the cast, reminds them that like someone, believes that this is, it's privileged to do this.
I think that's why we
were star interviews, because we're privileged to be here with you guys. So yeah.
We're going to start at the beginning, and this is a bit of a nerdy question, but you start with an old school Universal logo. And Kevin and I were sitting next to it. As soon as it popped up, we went, and it was so great to see. I have so many memories of like those old school, and I'm just sort of curious, like the decision behind that. And then do you have to go to Universal and say, hey, like, let me look at all your different logos and pick which one I want to use?
Yeah, it was one of those that I kept on saying, wow, this is, with such an old school movie. Everything about it, the lenses are old. The way I'm shooting it is this old school way. The score has a kind of, Herdis did this kind of Bernard Herrmann-esque kind of score. And so when the logo first came up, the modern logo, I was like, gosh, it's not actually setting the tone. And then the first thought was, can we change it a little bit? And then we kind of looked up on the internet old Universal logos, and then I found one, and I was like, that one. Can we get permission to use that one? And then we had to go through legal and change it because it was MCA back then.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So it's altered.
Yeah, because I had to put Comcast instead of MCA.
Oh, wow.
You
remember what era it was? Because my mind went to, it looked like the Jurassic Park before, like in the early 90s.
Oh, no, it was before that.
Predated.
Justin Lin just do this for the ninth Fast and Furious. I think he used an older Universal logo too,
It was in the 60s, I think.
Oh, really? You went that far
back. The 70s. It was a period of time because then they changed it again somewhere in there. So It was in that I think at the end of the 60s and early 70s, but don't
Sure.
quote me on that.
Oh, that's awesome.
I want to nerd out about camera choices because I know we talked a little bit in TV about this, but this show is designed for people to learn about filmmaking and why directors make certain choices on aspect ratios. We talked to you about aspect ratios when we had you on for Old and the different ratios you've used, the 239 and the 185. But the dolly zoom is really one of the most iconic, probably my favorite shot in history of cinema. And the way it's used here is very unnerving, especially that shot of just the woods.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you can just talk about the process of getting that shot, what you want from that shot, but also do you have a favorite use of it? I know people, you go to Vertigo, you can go to Jaws.
Yeah.
I'm just curious what your favorite is and kind of what your choice was and how you kind of operated those there. Because they're to me, they're like characters in the movie almost.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very surreal camera technique. It's not naturalistic. Obviously, the Jaws one is the iconic one for me that I think of. But there's been so many great uses of it. You haven't seen it yet, but the last episode of Servant, I do like a big one in there. So,
Hell yes.
So when you get to see that episode 9, when
Apple won't send the last episode.
Is it as simple as zooming and pulling back? Is that
well, I have we call it two different versions. One's a Zolly, which is your zooming in and pulling back, and then a Doom, where you're dollying in and zooming out. So it's like I have to make up names for it. It doesn't have
Doom sounds
the
cool.
Doom,
Awesome.
yeah. So we tell I go like, let me see the Doom version, and then we'll do the Doom version, and you just pick which one emotionally is. You'd really have to analyze what the difference is between a Zolly and a Doom emotionally.
So what are you using in that tree shot?
Gosh, I did them both on both. Now you're gonna catch me. I think it was a Zolly at the end of the day to that you're fixating on something, but your grasp of it is sliding as you're trying to fixate on that.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
It feels like it's slipping away, and
Yeah.
I love that shot. And I want to tell people right now, pay attention to the shots in this film, like the selective
Use of
focus,
space, like
the
how you
framing,
fill the frame is-
left and right. Rupert will be down in the bottom right of the frame, and then it's really cool. So yeah.
Yeah, there's even totally nerding out for a second.
No, this is the podcast for that, man.
You have to do
I'm
it all.
telling you, you're in the right place.
I don't know if you remember that, like in when they were the second. There's like, how can I say it's like giving stuff away. There's the kind of a second plague or something
Yes.
that they're doing, and the guys are starting to have opposite feelings about it.
Yeah.
And there's a shot where it goes from Ben to Jonathan.
Yes, I saw. Yeah,
And the focal plane is locked, so we're not racking.
It's not a
to-
rack focus.
Oh.
It's just locked, and then when he comes into focus, he comes into focus. So
The actor is the one pushing it.
but no,
essentially.
the dolly just says, let's say the focal plane is, 2 feet away. It's always just 2 feet away. And until we stop 2 feet from Jonathan. And so what does that do? It means for a part of the dolly, no one's in focus. No one's in focus. And that kind of sense of like what it is, or at least in our head, and Jaron and my head, was we're switching from one point of view to another point of view. And when you're doing that, it's not a casual thing. It's like ripping, the language of the film, slowly going. It's Andrew's point of view, and now it's Eric's point of view. So
There's the
small
narrative
little thing.
decisions. Yeah, it's amazing.
Incredible. I think one of the biggest shocks I remember in recent memory in theaters is when we learned that Split and Unbreakable were in the same universe. And I know, Tarantino, all of his movies exist sort of in that same universe. Have you ever considered if any of your other films, whether they affect each other or not, exist in like a Shyamalan-verse? Like, is there sort of like a...
I wish I had been smart enough to think of that. I guess now I wish I told my 20-some-year-old self, hey, dude, you're going to get to do this for a while. Yeah. So maybe if you think of it this way, you might be able to connect them all. But at that point, I was like, if they let me direct one more movie, I'll be happy, And so it was never a feeling like I was going to get to do this again.
Well, we had a theory of like, what if The Happening is someone saying no?
One of the plagues.
And so that's how we're starting to see. We're building it for you.
We got you.
We're doing
There
your
you go.
work for you.
It's so close. Yeah, for whatever reason, I always have the instinct to work the visit in. I don't know why. I always have that instinct. Even in Glass, I was like, well, maybe. This one I almost did make a reference to 2 old people that escaped from that mental institution.
No!
I had it in the script, and then I took it out. I was like, it's not. That would be retrospectively doing it rather than organically I had thought about doing it.
That's incredible.
So this is a question that I don't know if you'll answer, but I'm hoping you will, because the movie's all about making a choice, a very horrible choice, and obviously the idea of doing that. If you had to sacrifice one of your films,
Yes.
like a film of yours that you would
Yes.
like, and that was like somehow to like that needed to be done to save the world, what is
Yes.
a film you would have to give up from your
And
filmography?
by that insinuation, you're insinuating one that I would least like to keep. Is that what you're
Yes.
thinking?
And also, I do want to
Yes.
clarify, we're not saying that the movie is bad. We're not saying it. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, but if you had to give one up, it didn't exist in your filmography, which one?
Well, I would never tell you. So- but I did, just to make it even worse for you guys, I did have one that popped into my head. So
Oh, come on.
see,
Wait, and now if we guess it, we look bad.
you ask a gotcha question, I'm gonna give you a got you. I'll give you a got you back.
I just wanted to know. I wanted to know the answer to that genuinely.
Well, let's see. One day, if we're doing shots one day, and you get me to do enough shots, then I'll
Deal.
be like,
This is the second time you've referenced getting drinks today, so I'm really thinking we do really need to go out and get
look,
drinks.
I'm tired. We need to do this.
Dude,
So
yes.
All right. Yeah,
There is a small...
I got to dress up though if we're gonna go out.
Oh, we'll
do
dress.
suits.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do suits.
There's a small, really, just a small detail of this film that I found to be one of the most unsettling, and it's the way you have planes fall. Because if I were to read this sort of on the page, I feel like I would envision them nosediving into the ground.
Yeah.
But maybe this is just disturbing for us because of how much we fly every weekend. But this image of like the plane tumbling,
It's like helpless.
it like gave me like it really almost kind of gave me anxiety because just
Yeah.
as much as we're flying in about an hour.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the detail of like making the plane not nosedive into the ground,
Yeah.
but like sort of just aimlessly toss and tumble?
Yeah, it creates a kind of a sense of we don't know why it's falling. So it creates yet another mystery in the way that it's falling. You know, and it reminds me a tiny bit of the way the guys fell in the happening off the tops of the buildings.
Oh, I
you
love
know,
that shot.
Just kind of stepping, you know. And I remember directing those stuntmen and being like, no intention, don't, you're not trying to do this. And so I remember having that in that same way, the planes, I don't want you to know why, you know, they're not in a panic, they're just stopping.
And my mind just went to what was happening inside those planes at that time. It's such a small detail, and I don't mean to make a big thing of it, but it's just it was haunting.
It's the unknown.
Yeah.
It's in some way evoking the unknown in every decision that you make. You know, the knocks are even, 7 even knocks. So there's no emotion in them, so that you can't read anything. There's no urgency. There's no lack of urgency.
Does Dave do the knocks for real?
No, well, it was ultimately a sound effect that we spent forever trying to find the right.
Yeah, and there's also there's one scene where the planes are falling. It's like the oneer where you're going left to right, and we just see multiple ones. Like that shot scene was amazing. We talk about the R rating, which is interesting because I talked to you for Servant. You were talking about the use of the R rating and how the violence was supposed to juxtapose kind of what's going on in the film and the story. And I think this is your second R rated film.
Yeah.
And one of the things I loved about what you did was you still cut away from things.
Yeah.
And I always go back to 7 because I think what Fincher does on 7, where you don't actually see the murders, you just see the aftermath or you hear about it. It's actually more gruesome and more brutal that way.
Yeah.
But how do you decide, like, is that a choice you make? You go, all right, I'm going to cut away or cut outside the cabin because it'll be more brutal for the person to think about what's going on. But you have the R rating, so you could have gone like super gross with that stuff, but you didn't.
It's just not, that's not my style when I think about things. But I think, we either, I'm very sensitive as an audience member to kind of like torture porn, the idea of like you're taking something that is just inherently heinous and making me watch it. And that I don't think is great storytelling. I think you're just kind of torturing me. And
we had this discussion recently about he loved Infinity Pool and I didn't because of that exact
I haven't
thing.
seen it. Yeah, so that's not great storytelling. You're just showing a person getting raped or something, something that's not. And then there's the other thing is there's a moment where we just shut off, where it becomes like as a human being, we just shut off from, and I need you to stay open in the story. I need you emotionally to be with me. I need to access your emotions. So it's a fine line of how much to show those things, and it's a calibration process. And I mean, literally, like we were, it's like if there's a moment where one of the characters is getting hit by these weapons, and the difference between 4 more hits or 3 more hits and then 2 more hits and 1 more hit than we have in the movie was how we literally did it. It was like, wow, there's just too many, because there's a visceralness to watching this person getting pummeled. And then you go, come back, literally. And I screen it again with 2 more and then 1 more. And and it has that much impact on your feeling of the movie. Just this one little moment that we're talking about.
When also, as we were talking earlier, the sound.
Yes.
sound is so unbelievably important. And
Yes.
you're saying that the sound is usually what gets you an R rating.
Yeah, for me, most of the time, the R rating has been because of the intensity of the scene with the sound effects in it. And
They don't like red blood either.
yes,
That's
yeah,
why
but
Quentin-
that's never
yeah.
the thing with me. But the sound effects, your imagination, you can't get away from the sound of the weapon hitting the body or whatever it is. So, so this is the one time I didn't have to take the sound effects down.
Yes. Kristen is phenomenal in this.
Yeah, she
and,
is amazing.
I mean, that's the kind of performance that, like, if it's not good, the movie doesn't work.
Yes,
Like, the movie
yes.
is ruined. You clearly have such a great, almost like, I compare it to, like, Spielberg. Spielberg is known for how great he works with kids, as do you. You look at Signs and all the way back to Sixth Sense. So I want to kind of go back to the beginning. What did you learn in your interaction with Haley Joel Osment that maybe you remember and maybe still use today when working with a young actor like Kristen?
You know, it's I tend now to tack towards the two type of actors, kind of those that are beginning, and that the children will fall into that group, and then the kind of hyper trained theater actors whose craft is so strong that they can get back to the beginning again. So, so on both groups, there's an innocence or an openness I'm looking to get to the true emotions inside you, as opposed to sometimes. A lot of actors have been trained to personality act, essentially, make me laugh, make me, emote in a way, but they're not, it's a generalization of why the emotion is coming up in them. Or, for example, like I will catch an actor and say, you're getting emotional, but I can tell you're not coming from where the character is coming from. So I'm watching you cry, but something in us, we're saying something doesn't feel right. That's sad, you're sad, but not for why she's sad.
Right.
And I go, you're cheating me, and I can see it,
Wow.
And so when you think of the thing, I'm thinking about my dog who died, and then you make yourself cry in the scene, I can see you're talking,
Really?
you're not crying from the right place, because each character has a way they cry and why they cry.
You see that in other movies when people are doing that?
I mean, for me, it's more, it feels like generalization, when I hear it. This is a representation of the character being sad. And so you can let go, and because normally that will be consistent through the whole piece, and you can try to let go of that. But what I'm searching for is something very coming from the character. Who is the character? It's tethered to a spot, and they feel like lock that elbow in, and then you have these options of emotion. You don't have this one, because that would moving the elbow, the pivot point. So even though that would be a great sadness, that character can't go there. So when you do it perfectly, you can see that pivot point. And so that's a discipline thing. Even if your personality goes, I know I could kill it if I go there. Don't do it. And
That's my Oscar clip.
Yeah, exactly. And the child is inherently locked there in that. So I'm kind of showing them craft, I'm teaching them craft and by craft, I mean, how to empathize with a character. So like Abigail, when she was 5, literally all I had to do was tell her the situation. And she was, tearing and being connected. Like I'd say, your dad is sad because he thinks this is the last time you're going to have dinner together. And then she goes like, he does? And I'm like, roll cameras, please. And then Mel and Joaquin look over at me and I'm like, your turn.
Yeah. Do something with this, man.
I want to talk to you about trailers, because trailers to me are very interesting. And I noticed a couple differences in the trailers that I saw in the film. There's a courtroom scene in a trailer that I didn't end up seeing in the film, unless I'm wrong on that.
Courtroom scene.
Remember there was
there was a courtroom
it looked like
scene, yeah.
Jonathan was in a courtroom or something. Like it's in the second
Oh,
trailer.
yeah. No, there's a church. He's in a church.
Church. Okay. All right.
Yeah, he's in a church.
And
yeah.
so but that didn't end up in the actual
Yes.
film. And then also when the plane's falling behind Ben,
Yeah,
I think
yes.
you added clouds or like a storm in the
Yes,
movie, and it's
yes.
not in the trailer.
Yes.
And then I even think there was other shots as well. How do you decide
Yes.
what goes into your trailers, and why will we see shots of things that you don't end up using? Is it purposeful?
No, it's very organic. It's kind of the trailer guys, the marketing team is using the current cut that I have. So where I am when they put trailer 1 out, that's where my cut is. At least for me, that's the way it is. And then I fully intend to have it in the movie. So when they cut the trailer and trailer 1 goes out, that church scene was in the movie.
Okay.
And then by the time trailer 2, it's slightly changed, and now that's not in there, and then they're still using the current cut, And so I'm, and then I make an assessment, retroactively about, hey, let's say the trailer's about to go out, but it had to go through this whole process before it can be put out in the world. Hey, that scene's not in there anymore. Is it still representative of the story that you're saying? And does it help tell the story? And in that case, it unfortunately you thought it was a courtroom, but
I couldn't tell.
Yeah,
Like,
but it's a church, so you go, well, that character is a person of faith. So I'm okay with that, that little subliminal feeling that I know something about the character that's not in the movie. So I'm making those assessments with them. I'm very careful that they don't wrongly insinuate something, and also I don't that obviously put us too far ahead in the storytelling. So most of the time, like the third acts are off limits.
Is the plane with the clouds and storms, is that just a visual effect?
Yes, exactly. The evolution of the visual effect, and that often happens that you're seeing a 4-month earlier version of the visual effect.
Wow.
They're giving us the wraps. I'm going to cut you loose on this.
No.
Oh, I know. We could be here all day.
Yeah. We wrote like 9.
Yes.
Yeah,
Give me one last one.
All right.
Come on.
You have such a great history of bringing actors back that you love to work with time and time. In this case, it's Rupert, who I think this is probably his best performance. Like, he's just phenomenal in this. Is there an actor you've only worked with just for one reason or another, one time, that you're dying to get one more shot with?
Wow, that's a great question. I don't think I've ever been asked that. I'm sure there's tons. I don't want to, not say all the actors.
Well, I would say who
I'll
you,
take one.
Yeah,
I'll
okay,
take
yeah,
one.
you got one.
I'll tell you who popped into my head when
Tell
you
me.
said it was Sarah Paulson.
Oh.
Yeah, so she popped into my
She
head.
was so great in class.
So Sarah's out there. Let's do it again sometime.
And she's active on social. We'll clip this and post it for her to see. Dude.
Yeah, we had so many questions. Well, thank you so
Thank
much.
you guys. It's always fun to hang with you
Thank
guys.
you.
Yeah,
I
thank
really
you for being
appreciate
just such a
Thanks
big
for
fan
having
of
us,
us,
Yeah,
man.
you guys
so
are
great.
awesome.
We appreciate you.
Thank you so much to M. Night Shyamalan for joining the show. Everybody go check out Knock at the Cabin. Thank you to our friends at Universal as well, too, for giving us extra time with him. Obviously, we love having filmmakers come on the show and dig deep into their films. We're going to have a lot to say about this movie later on. The boys are predicting before we head into the show to record that this might be the movie that upsets Avatar. Finally knocks it out of the #1 spot at the box office.
Knocks
where
it out?
held on to. Pretty good.
How
Pretty good.
many headlines on Monday morning are going to be Knock
So
at the Cabin
many.
or knocks out? Yeah.
Cabin knocks out Avatar. Oh,
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, earlier this week,
Give me a break, and then Monday morning ReelBlend's like top article list.
I'm just going to start writing it right now. You gotta jump on it. Earlier this week, James Gunn and Peter Safran had a presentation where they were announcing the next half of the first chapter of the new stage of DC Studios and DC Films and everything they're doing under their creative leadership. There's plenty of places where you guys can go and find out what the slate is. Specifically, I recorded a video with Hannah Solik from our CinemaBlend staff, and you can go to CinemaBlend's
Love you,
YouTube
Hannah.
channel to go check that out. Don't show Hannah all that love. I'm on the video too. What the heck? You don't love me? What's the story?
I don't click on videos with you. I click on Hannah videos.
But I want to quickly go over just some of the ones that are really exciting to me, and then I want to get reactions to you guys about how you feel about the direction of this slate in particular. And I want to vent also as well too, because I was invited to be in that room for that presentation, and Jake knows in particular that this broke my heart that I couldn't be there for it. Because one of the things where like Warner Brothers called me on a Friday and they were like, "Can you be in Burbank on Monday?" And it's like, I know that this industry operates that way sometimes, but like that's just ridiculous. And so I wasn't able to make it. But I was really glad to hear the audio of the presentation, and I'm really excited to see what James is doing.
Whenever you
with this
listen to
slate.
it, did you listen to it with like a single tear rolling down your cheek? Like looking off in the distance?
More like rage listened. I'm more like I was really disgruntled at not having to be there and pretend.
But
that
I-
was
As
in the
opposed to
room.
your regular degree of gruntled?
Yeah, exactly.
I bet you didn't miss that flight though.
No, not at all. I was very happy to be at home and listening to the audio in my pajamas. But Kev, like sometimes it is special to be invited to something like that, and then you feel
I
like,
agree.
Yeah. But I'm with you. Kevin's starting to come over to my side on travel, which I kind of like about it. The one in particular that jumps out to me that I cannot wait to see what they do with it is Superman Legacy. And I know that there's a lot of scuttlebutt about the way that Henry Cavill was treated, and I do think that he was really caught in the crosshairs of the changing of the guard between the old regime, who was probably listening to Dwayne Johnson and being somewhat influenced about how they wanted him to have the cameo in Black Adam, and then against all odds, let Henry go out and make a video where he tells fans that he's back, and he goes on Josh Horowitz's live podcast and says, "I'm back," and talks about how excited he is to get an opportunity again, and then they just pull the football away from him like Lucy style. And I think that's cruel. Like someone had to know that this wasn't going to go forward and that Henry was not going to be doing this. And so I'm really upset that happened to him. Yes, Gabe.
I still have hope that in like, he still looks really young. Maybe another 20 years, we'll get a live action adaptation of Invincible, and he'll be the dad.
Oh, I could see
He'll be
that
Omni-Man.
happening.
How great would that be? Like, especially 15, 20 years from now, that'd be so.
Just
would
give
be really
him
cool.
Bond now.
Yeah, I'm okay with that too.
I mean, we already
That'd be
saw it
fine.
on display in Guy Ritchie's Man from Uncle.
I kind of just want more. I mean, obviously, there's some problematic things with Man from Uncle at this point, as far as making a sequel.
Sure.
But trim that cast down a little bit and just make more Man from Uncle. I love that.
Yeah, I love that movie. Yeah.
That's great. So we don't know. Here's what we know about Superman Legacy. We know that James Gunn is writing it. We know that one of the things that they talked about that I think is a really smart way for them to enter this DC universe is that they are not going to be doing origin stories. We're going to be entering into this DC universe and it's just going to exist. Like all the corners of it are existing and the heroes are existing and they all know that they've been heroes and they are heroes and they're all aware of each other. So when you get to Superman Legacy, he's already Superman. He's Clark Kent at the Daily Planet. He's fully aware that there's a Batman and there's a Wonder Woman and all these things are going on. They don't have to set up, use each film to establish who these heroes are. They kind of know, we know who they are. You know who they are. Let's just hit the ground running. And I think that that's fantastic.
Sean,
But I really want a
you.
film that explains to what happened to Batman as to
Batman's
Bruce Wayne as a
family.
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really want a movie that explains that.
I'll tell you offline.
Did you
Sean-
guys see JD Dillard, guest of the show, JD Dillard's tweet about this?
I
I
did
feel
not.
like it has to be like a comic book story already. He kind of had like a joking tweet of like, oh, I guess no one got my email about a Joker movie where Joker builds a time machine to go back and save Bruce's parents so Batman never exists. And I was
Well,
like,
that's
well,
actually-
make that movie immediately.
That's interesting.
That's pretty great.
That's amazing.
I have two quick questions, Sean, because
Yes.
I this is genuinely, I'm just curious. So from what James Gunn says in the announcement, basically Shazam comes out. That's the old DC universe, right? And then Flash
Yes.
resets it completely.
Correct.
Okay.
Although what they said is that Zachary Levi still has the opportunity to potentially stay Shazam. Like
But
they're
it
not
would be
canceling him
different-
altogether.
Okay.
But
But
yes, it would be.
how is Flash resetting the universe? Explain that to me.
The Flash, from what I understand, is going to open up the concept of the multiverse, very
Okay.
similar to the way that Doctor Strange and Spider-Man No Way Home opened up the concept of the multiverse.
Okay.
And this new continuity of stories that James Gunn is going to be telling will exist in a different universe.
Okay.
Similar to Matt Reeves's Battinson is going to take place in its own universe that does not cross over with this one that James
Right.
Gunn is doing.
So Zachary Levi's Shazam that comes out in this new movie that's coming out in March
Yes.
is theoretically, if he were to appear again, it would be a different version of the character.
It could be. Or they could just say that Shazam was part of the universe that they are continuing to build.
But
What
he was
happened
pretty
is-
adamant about resetting it on Flash.
Well, I was
Yeah.
under the understanding that there's there's going to be a line because that they want to because they still want to give Momoa Aquaman 3.
Yes.
And so
Right.
that there are, and also Viola Davis's character from
Waller.
the past DC Waller is getting her own HBO Max series. And then we have the Batman Part 2 and Joker 2 coming out. So there's going to be sort of a line where they're going to differentiate. This exists within this new universe we're creating. And these are kind of just fun hypothetical projects. Some from the past, that are we're continuing,
Joker 2.
which Kevin, I don't know about
Convoluted.
you. I think of this under the realm of how I'm going to explain it to my morning show audience.
Yeah.
And it ain't easy. I even was trying to explain it whenever this morning, when I was sort of explaining it to my news anchor who I do an entertainment headline segment with. And she was like, wait, so we're getting a new Batman. And I said, yes. And she goes, but it's different than Pattinson's Batman. And I was like, yes. And she goes, but this Batman is going to meet Superman, but it's maybe the Flash, but not the Flash that meets the Michael Keaton Batman and the Ben Affleck Batman. And I was like, that is all correct, actually.
I just got lost 3 sentences ago.
To be fair, though,
Yes.
this is all because we're speculating on very little information that we're
Sure.
confused. I think that we have hypothetically we know what's going to happen in the Flash or how it could open up, but I think we have to allow the Flash to happen before we can really be like, oh, this is confusing or it's not. Because again, movies are the general audience. They're not necessarily the comic book audience, but comic book audiences for decades have had to deal with, okay, this is a different Spider-Man story and Spider-man's going to die in this. And this is about him growing old.
Yeah,
and
but they
whatever.
get that. The comic book readers understand.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
the-
I think
yeah.
that we can trust that we can, for the now, benefit of the doubt without knowing, trust that they'll be able to communicate that with a movie going audience in some way to where that exists, because they already have, like, no one thinks that the CW shows are going to interact with Henry Cavill, you know, like that was messy, and not that was great, but like that wasn't confusing. That just people just accepted that was
until
the case.
Ezra Miller showed up on one of those shows, though.
Sure,
Right, but in this case, the shows and the movies in Gunn's world will exist. And one thing I want to point out that I did like about what he said was that the actors who play the voice characters are also going to hopefully mostly play the physical versions of the characters. I think is a great concept. Yep. Great idea.
Well, and in this sense too, it's very open world in that if you get, and it's someone compared to, I think it was Hannah actually, who said like it's a little bit like Ragnarok, where it was a Thor movie, but Hulk was in it, and everyone was just like, oh, all right, well, I guess Hulk is on this planet when he arrives there. Like if you're telling a Superman story, but you need Batman to show up in a scene or two, and they have the actor who's playing him, he'll just show up. Like it's not a big deal of like, we're doing Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. It's just, oh, this is an open world, and Superman ends up at this place, and that's where Batman is, kind of thing. Well, so Sean and I, it's a lot of commitment to these actors.
You and I were talking on the phone, and because one of the things that Gunn said, correct me if I'm wrong, that it's less that they're building toward an Avengers style meetup and more that they're just working to build these characters. And if the story needs it, they'll cross over. And the thing I said to you, I said, so that means in my mind, the way I'm reading that is less Avengers movies, more Ragnarok movies, not necessarily the tone or like this humor, but more the like, let's just put these people together just because the story dictates it. And honestly, that's fine with me. That was the mistake DC made last time, is they tried to rush to Justice League too quickly.
Yeah. And I think that it's fair to say that like audiences change and grow with how storytelling changes and grows. And the last decade taught audiences about team ups. Like the last decade was people getting individual stories and then putting them together. It would be old hat to do it that way at this point. And now I think DC is almost forced to just allow the world to exist and be open, and people are going to understand that and be more excited about that in the same way that now with Marvel, all of their movies have to tie in somebody else, or else people sort of criticize it for being a little small.
I do worry, though, that with 3 different tiers of DC characters that are being brought over from the past, DC characters that are just on their own and have nothing to do with the main story, and then the main story. I do. And look, I trust audiences to be smart and be able to figure it out. But like, I will say the layout was more complicated. It was a lot more convoluted and less clean slate than I expected it to be.
But here's the thing. I think eventually those side projects are going to get largely phased out. Like I think
they're the only ones making money.
I think Gunn
that's why they're still happening, though. Like if the Batman wasn't as good as the Batman was, they probably might not even consider it.
Exactly. But I'm saying like the Batman and Joker are like, they're the only things in DC that are like really, well, I guess Aquaman delivered $1 billion, but
what did the Batman make? Oh, the Batman made 700
like 750. Yeah.
Wow. An Academy Award nominated film, by the way.
Not enough Academy Award nominations.
I don't think I realized the Batman made $770 million. A
lot of money.
Wow.
It had no real competition when it came out. It's quietly just cleaned up March and April for a while.
But it's a 3-hour, really dark Batman film. Like really that's really cool. Like crazy it made that much money. Wow.
You know, it's nuts. I know that we talk about, and we'll switch to The Brave and the Bold, which is the next Batman movie. But like, it's so funny that like Robert Pattinson right now is PJ's Batman. Like that's his it hit him at that time, you know, and now that's his Batman, and he can't wait for that, next chapter of that universe kind of thing.
And, for me, I'm ready for, and I'm getting nervous about like and it's all reports and speculation. You don't know, but like that Keaton's being a little cut out of the Flash, like that maybe he's not going to, to me, like, that's all I wanted was to see Keaton again. Like that's why we're so close. Don't take this from me.
I think he's a significant part of the movie. Like I think
he has to be.
Barry's going to spend a lot of time in that universe, and
we're about to. I think we're about to get a really serious, major first look during the Super Bowl.
And also
a big trailer.
Gunn made a really interesting statement. I don't want to paraphrase him, but he said The Flash is one of the best superhero films he's ever seen.
Seen.
I think he said exactly that.
I mean,
he did
that. I don't think he would say that lightly.
I also agree because if it's not, or if it's so bad, then he's lost all credibility with the audience immediately. So I don't think he would make that claim.
But also, the filmmaker Andy Muschietti is a good filmmaker.
Yeah, honestly that's what makes me excited about is that filmmaker, because I mean, I don't love It Part 2, but It Part 1 was outstanding.
But say what you want to about It Part 2. You can say a lot of things about it. I actually really liked it. You can say a lot of things about it, but what you can't say is that it's poorly made.
No, correct. No, I just
it's
didn't need all
very
those
well made. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean that's a totally justified. I liked it, but I mean I also like the King novel, which is that thick.
Right. That issue felt like it was we really just want to be like we want to really do this novel justice versus we want to make the
also, I mean, like King doesn't often do cameos in his stuff anymore as much as he used to, and he's in that, which like you don't he's in the store. Yeah, he's a shopkeeper.
Oh, that's right.
Does Bill buy the bike from him? Is that what happens?
Yeah,
that's right.
Bill,
that's right.
The Brave and the Bold, I want to quickly mention, is the new Batman. This is probably what's leading to some of the confusion, is that James Gunn is going to get to cast a different Batman that's going to be part of his DCU. But they are jumping ahead to give him a Robin that I'm really fascinated to see.
Oh yeah, this sounded cool.
Yeah, Damian? So Damian Wayne he's roughly 10 or 11 in the comics, I think, when Bruce first meets him, and he is the child of Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul. Who Marion Cotillard played in Dark Knight Rises, and is often a love interest for Bruce Wayne over the years. But Bruce doesn't know that he had a child with her. Marion Cotillard. Talia al Ghul kept him secret and raised him through the League of Assassins. So he's a 10-year-old psychopath, essentially. Like, he's a lethal killer.
That sounds amazing.
Is it kind of like in the vein of like how Hit Girl was super young but badass, like in the Kick-Ass
100%.
movies? It kind of reminded me of that a little bit. Like the artwork, I was like, I gotta get a little Hit Girl vibe from like a younger person.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And Damian thinks he's as good as Batman, if not better. He's extremely arrogant, which allows him to play off of other characters who I think we're going to see in this film, which is Dick Grayson, who's probably going to be Nightwing by the time we meet him. And you're going to get a Barbara Gordon playing Batgirl. I don't think it's Leslie Grace. I think that movie got shelved and her run as Batgirl got shelved. But you're going to see more of the Bat family in that one.
This is a quick side note. I just want to say huge shout out to Adil and Bilal. Speaking of Batgirl, I know that got canned and taken away, but they got their redemption and we're getting a Bad Boys 4.
Yes,
unfortunately, they already called the third one Bad Boys for Life, so I don't know what they're going to do.
You saw that video though? Did you watch the video where they made fun of that?
Yeah,
that's
I can't
funny.
wait. Anyways, continue.
They're going to
honestly,
great.
Can I throw out the title that they announced that I'm most excited about, and it's the most random thing, but just based on James Mangold's Swamp Thing as a horror film?
Oh, really? Yeah.
Like awesome. Like of the whole slate, that was whenever they said it, 1, it's going to be a horror film. 2, it's going to be Swamp Thing. 3, it's going to be Mangold. Like all 3 of those things, I went, yep. Like that's the thing. And it's going to tie in. So how the hell, I don't know. But like one day we could get a...
Didn't he tweet out a poster before there was any acknowledgement of him even being involved in it?
I didn't see it.
Gunn said he was directing it. I think it just flew under the radar.
So what I'm reading now,
but then Mangold confirmed it.
Reports today, is it confirmed? Yeah, today I'm reading that he's in early talks. So I don't think that anything has been signed, but I assume it's just a scheduling money stuff.
From what I understand, the announcement came out, and then all of a sudden Mangold tweeted a poster of Swamp Thing, like some type of like poster, and people read into that as, oh, Mangold's doing the film. I didn't know. I don't think it's confirmed or was announced. I think he was just. I don't know.
Give it to him. Give it to him because he's great. He's phenomenal. All
right, so back to Damian Wayne. Sorry.
Well, no, I'm going to jump to
I didn't mean to.
No, Jake is excited for Swamp Thing. The title I'm most excited for, and then Kevin, I want to go to you. I can't wait for Lanterns, which is an HBO Max series.
And you said dark and edgy, right?
Well, they're describing it as True Detective, but with Green Lanterns.
Yes.
It's a True Detective type mystery. But it has Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, who are 2 Green Lanterns. And it's going to be terrestrial based. It's going to be based on Earth. It's not like there was a Green Lantern script that was floating around for a while that everybody kind of described as Lethal Weapon with lanterns. And I'm okay with that too. But if you're going to tell me that it's a True Detective type story, then
I just hope the Hal Jordan performance is exactly Matthew McConaughey's performance.
Or how about just cast the 2 of them?
We stop saying weird shit.
Time is a flat circle. Yeah. He's like, and they're cracking open Lone Star beers.
I don't sleep. I just dream.
Kev, which one hit you? Which one are you circling?
In all honesty, it was the honest. Like, I watched the whole video, but the Brave and the Bold thing to me was the most interesting because I was curious about that younger Robin type character, and so it's the character's name is Damian Wayne, but he is going to be Robin. It is a version of Robin. Okay,
he is Robin, but he's like the fourth Robin in the
okay. That was that interested me. I also thought the imagery that he used for the Superman announcement was interesting. I'm assuming that's from one of the comics. I thought that was a cool shot.
Messaging I read into that is we're going hopeful Superman.
Yeah,
we promise.
It was the colors of it seemed like it wasn't like super dark
and brooding.
Didn't
he even say the quote? What's the Superman quote? Truth, justice, in the American way. Didn't he even say that? Like
he may
classic.
have.
I think he said that at some point.
I think he had a little shot at Man of Steel. I think he had a little shot at Man of Steel where he said Superman's greatest weakness is that he doesn't kill anybody. He goes out of his way to protect everyone possible.
Do we really think that James Gunn doesn't like Man of Steel? James Gunn?
There's no way he doesn't love Man of Steel.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Man of Steel. Also, in terms of like
little shade.
In terms of the announcement, I thought it was interesting. We were texting on the chat. It was cool. It didn't feel super scripted. It felt really kind of like he was talking directly to you. I was just amazed at how he keeps it all together. That's kind of what I took away from the whole video was like, how does this guy write all these things? He's like probably in post on Guardians 3. He's dealing with
He's got to be planning Peacemaker season 2.
I mean, it's just insane how calm and collected he was with everything he was saying. And
his hair is white now.
Yeah. I think he dyed it before Suicide Squad. I want to say I remember like his hair being white for Suicide Squad, the press. But I mean, obviously a very talented filmmaker, talented writer, talented director. So I'm very curious to see how he handles it. It's cool to have a director at the helm.
Yeah.
Somebody, like Feige's obviously phenomenal with the MCU, but he's not a director. I mean, he's a producer. But Gunn is a producer, a writer, a director. It's kind of a triple threat almost.
Well, and one of the things he was saying in the presentation too, which doesn't feel like it needs to be said, yet the fact that he was saying it, he goes, we're not going to go into production on a film unless our script is completely finished. And he goes, we're putting the writers back at the forefront where they belong. Like, you're going to come to us with an idea and you're going to fully flesh it out and develop it. And again, like you shouldn't have to say that out loud, but we've seen too many examples over the past 20 years of movies that went into a production without a third act. And they just assume like, we'll figure it out when we get there. And then you don't figure it out when you get there because you weren't able to figure it out when you started. So I admire the fact that he's saying such things. Jakey, what'd you have?
So I don't want to contribute to the like pitting one thing against the other, but in nature of doing that, I can honestly tell you, based on the future of Marvel and the future of DC and what we're looking down the pipeline for each, I'm more excited about the future of DC than I am Marvel, and that's not something I feel like I have said in a very long time.
Well, I do believe the reason you feel that way is just Marvel has just been so consistently great, and then it got to a fatigue aspect.
And it's been consistently meh for the past few years.
Oh no, I'm just talking about like throughout the 30 plus films they made, they were consistently great for a long time. And then I think obviously we got a bit fatigued because I felt like the MCU started to really mess with the idea of stakes and not really, you got to give these character deaths, reality. I know Iron Man's gone, but I just think that like when I watch an MCU film and something bad happens to a character, I sometimes in the back of my mind go, oh, that person will be back somehow. They'll figure out a way to bring that person back. I'm hoping that I think the reason why we're excited about DC is, obviously with James Gunn being at the helm of it and Peter Safran, but it makes sense why DC would be more exciting right now because now, these phases post Avengers Endgame minus Shang-Chi, which I loved, and
Black Panther was great,
and No Way Home, and I like Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. I thought the first one was way better, but it hasn't been. I mean, Endgame was a huge culmination of like so many years and so many films. It's kind of impossible to capture that excitement again, like especially with that level of characters, the level of movies they were making. And so DC kind of has an automatic advantage because they're the underdog. They're now the, I mean, listen, we get back to Chris Nolan style Batmans and that type of DC work.
I mean, isn't that what
I'm in.
Isn't that what Matt Reeves is doing?
Yeah, I feel like it's what Reeves is doing.
Reeves
they described it as a crime saga, which is how they described Heat, which is basically what Nolan was doing.
Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Jake's got like red yarn on a board.
Yeah, I'm like that the Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny meme, where like all the
Oh, by the way,
it's a flat circle actually.
I'm going through It's Always Sunny for the first time ever. I'm on season 2 now.
Are you listening to their podcast as you watch?
So I'm gonna go back and do that. But
it's great.
Their bloopers are amazing, obviously, but I'm just kind of going through, I think, was it 16 seasons or something? How many seasons do they have? It's insane.
It's still going.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right. Well, that concludes our DC talk. We're going to take a quick break before we come back with This Week in Movies and this week's Blend Game. And we are back. All right. So real quick, in a weird bit of promotional branding, Tom Brady retired. And his new movie, 80 for Brady.
Yeah, the press tour for this is weird.
It's just short. Yeah. It's one quick Twitter video, and he's out. They did not screen
when he lost that Cowboys game. Was it the Cowboys that Tampa lost to, or was it the Eagles?
Yeah. The Cowboys.
That was lost to the Cowboys.
Yeah, that was all part of the narrative.
It was all promo for 88 for Brady.
He is in. This is commitment to the bit.
He threw that terrible interception. That was all planned. 80 for Brady.
I have no clue who this movie is for. I just have no idea who the target audience is.
Gonna make $400 million in Boston alone.
Probably
Mark
true.
Wahlberg's going 5 times this weekend.
But not that this matters, and this is just me making it personal, but it is my understanding. It is based on a true story, and it's based on the Super Bowl that I went to. I was there and watched I was at the Houston Super Bowl when Brady came back against the Falcons, and that's the Super Bowl that these 4 women went to
Super
see.
Bowl ever.
It was
because I'm a Panther
amazing.
fan and I hate the Falcons more than anything, and that was almost as good as if the Panthers ever won a Super Bowl. Was watching the Falcons blow that lead.
Might be as close as you get for a while.
Yeah, no kidding. But all 3 of us have seen M. Night Shyamalan's Knock at the Cabin, and he is a guest on this week's show, and we are really happy to have him by. And Kevin calls this his favorite M. Night Shyamalan since Unbreakable. Kev, start there.
Well, I mean, so I've always found myself defending M. Night over the years because I think that, there was a period of time where, he was like the #1 seed in terms of filmmaking. And then I think people got tired of the twist bit and then just turned negative towards him. And I never really understood that. And Gabe just tweeted a joke about that's why his fans are called M. Nights. What's that? I don't get that.
Okay, you said you defend M. Night.
Oh, yeah. Okay, it took me a second.
I didn't say it because it was a text joke. That's why.
No,
that's why
it was funny. So but I've always been a fan of his work. I mean, so I love The Village. I was one of the people who loved Lady in the Water. I thought The Visit was really, really great. I didn't necessarily love Old. But he's, Unbreakable is we'll get to the Blends game later on, but it is a film that I genuinely love, and his cinematography choices have always been really fascinating to me. He's also a filmmaker who still shoots on film, which is really great. And so Knock at the Cabin's also shot on film. But I think this is there's a shot at the beginning of Unbreakable that I always think about where we're on the train with the kid and he's looking back at Bruce Willis's character, and the camera's going left and right through the split of the seat. Right.
Yeah.
And I just always found his cinematography in that film to be so special, and it kind of made me focus a lot more on kind of his choices, his narrative choices as a filmmaker. And in our interview, obviously, we talk a little bit about shot choices and lenses. I want to shout out the cinematography specifically because in terms of shot choices and making selective choices about framing, and if you watch the film very closely, you'll notice actors are very, very shot in very specific parts of the frame. Like Rupert Grint will be bottom right of the frame, Jonathan Groff will be left of the frame, and Ben Aldridge will be right of the frame. And this is not new. This is not something hasn't been done before. But when you're making narrative decisions and narrative choices surrounding your shot choices, they are felt subconsciously by the audience member. So regardless of if you go into a movie noticing how a dolly zoom is done or a Zolly is done or a certain rack focus is done, if you don't know any of that, it doesn't matter because it's the effect the shot is having on you. You could watch Jaws and you see Roy Scheider see the shark for the first time, and you see that incredible effect where the background leaves him as his face stays in frame, in the frame, the front of the shot. That is a dolly zoom. It's a very famous shot that obviously Hitchcock made famous with Vertigo. It had been done before, but it was very famously done in Vertigo. It's where you basically zoom the camera and pull it back at the same time, or the other way around. But in terms of those shot choices, you feel the effects of it. You feel the anxiety levels of it. Performances wise, this film is brilliant. I mean, Dave Bautista, Ben Aldridge, I think are the two MVPs here. Ben Aldridge really carries this film.
Was one of them.
I love Groff.
Terrific.
See, I thought Aldridge to me was I thought he was outstanding. He was also great in Spoiler Alert. But from a thematic standpoint, this film is dealing with a very big question, a very big choice that characters have to make, and the entire film surrounds that. And I love that becomes the centerpiece and the moral question of what you would do. When do you start really believing this scenario? Is the world going to end if we really don't sacrifice somebody from our family? That moral question is with you the entire movie. So it's really fascinating, kind of like how he deals with it on a psychological level. I loved it. It's my favorite movie he's made since Unbreakable. Unbreakable, is a masterpiece. I love that film so much. But this kind of recaptured a sense of me loving his shot choices, his thematic decisions, his performances are outstanding. Everybody in this film is delivering on all cylinders. Rupert Grint is great. I mean, everybody's really great in this movie. So I loved it. I was really impressed with it. But from a shot perspective, if you're a film nerd and you love cinematography, maybe see it again and just study the shots. Because I think this should be shown in film schools. Like just the rack focuses, the dolly zooms, everything that's being done is really fantastic.
I think it's really interesting.
And score, great.
Between Old and this, like Knight is getting more experimental with his camera movements and his camera
He pays
choices.
for his own movies. He can do whatever he wants.
He used to be very focused on, I think, his scripts. And it feels like he's getting more loose and free as a director and as a filmmaker. Like some of the things he tries in Old are fascinating, and I enjoyed watching it from a visual standpoint. I agree with you, Kevin, that I think the performances in this are terrific. And they are what kept me compelled in the movie. And it's hard to discuss this movie because I don't want to give too much away about the premise, and I want to keep this spoiler free for people going into it as well too. And the premise essentially boils down to you having to either believe these four strangers who have shown up at the cabin and their story, or the family who they are trying to explain the story to, and you're supposed to they have to make a decision, and it's a very tough decision. And each time that they push them a little bit further to see if they agree with or if they're going to go along with it or not, something bad happens.
Right.
I almost felt that it needed to stay in that uncertainty longer. Like I think it rushed through some of it. Like, and it's hard to describe in detail the things that happen. But some of the things I thought happened a little bit quickly, and I wanted them to sort of, there's certain things in particular that get brought up, and you question whether they're true or not. And then there are some times when the movie answers for you, and I wish that they had left it a little bit more vague or ambiguous. Because
I disagree. I actually thought it was ambiguous until the end.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, I still didn't know what was going down until we got closer to the end.
By the end, it becomes it does become a little bit obvious. But there are narrative points throughout it when like they have to turn on the TV, and the TV has to be showing something at the exact moment that it's happening. You'll see it. It'll make sense. But it made sense.
It made sense when they did it.
It did. Yeah.
It's breaking news.
Sometimes it was convenient. I know what you're saying. I think sometimes it was convenient. I thought that the performances are what carry it though. Bautista is reaching a new level. And I'm so glad that he's getting an opportunity to. Because even in something like, if you watched Army of the Dead, it's a genre horror film, right? But he had a relationship with his daughter in that movie that gave it an emotional current that I wasn't expecting out of a Zack Snyder zombie horror in a casino kind of thing. And I think he's just becoming a really great actor that people can depend on. And it's been great today. Like during the day, we were writing on ReelBlend that there's people who are coming to his defense because he said in an interview, like, no director would ever cast me in a rom-com just because of the way he looks, essentially.
Yeah.
And people were coming out and saying, like, absolutely get Dave Bautista his rom-com kind of thing. And that's tough for people who are his size and his build, because you're right. It's difficult to cast him in stuff. It's a little bit like what Arnold faced, when he was in his prime. You couldn't put him in just about everything because of the way
wouldn't
that
that
he
be like
looked.
the great plot for the rom-com? That whenever I read that quote, my mind went, well, that's the plot. You've got this big, slab of a man who just wants his meat cute. Can't seem to find it because people think a certain thing when they like his comments to me. If I'm a studio, I'm like there it is. Like there's your plot for a rom-com.
What's interesting though about what you're saying, Sean, is like Bautista. I thought the moment that I really saw his range was Blade Runner 2049. Yeah, because there was a stillness to the way he like took off those little glasses he was wearing, but then there was this brutality to the character that was there, and on Bautista's actual hands is the quote, passive by nature, violent by choice, which is a contradiction, obviously, which explains kind of who he is, but also explains Leonard, and I think that's what's going on with him, is that like once Denis saw something. Right. And now we're really starting to get this range. I mean, Stuber, he was hilarious in that. I mean, he's amazing. But it's this like big teddy bear. I remember looking back at him after our interview and he was like, dude, look how big my head is compared to yours. I'm like, you are a large individual. That's what I said to him. I looked back, I said, you are a large individual. But there's something disarming about him, which is so fascinating, which is why he's so great in Knock at the Cabin, because the performance at any moment, this guy could rip your head off. Yeah. But that's not in his nature. It would be a choice, which just explains the character perfectly.
I totally understand.
Yeah.
Yes. Jakey, where do you fall on it?
I mean, a couple of points that I want to follow up with you guys. Yeah. One of the reasons that I like the choices that Bautista is making is that he seems to be making active choices where the characters go against your instant mentality that you think of when you see him. Like even like in the opening scene of Blade Runner, he's very gentle with like the potted plants and the character of Leonard. Like, first of all, he doesn't look like someone who would be named Leonard in Knock at the Cabin. And even though like I guess like he's being billed as like the villain, like he's a very quiet, gentle person in this film. And I think he's really actively going after roles that are the antithesis that Hollywood would normally cast him in, which I think is absolutely brilliant. I really loved this film. I was telling Sean yesterday that it's one of the few films in recent memory where if they had made it 20 minutes longer, I wouldn't have been mad about it. Like I could have stayed there a little bit longer. I'm just really fascinated with what Shyamalan does with settings, which is why I think he would be a great playwright, because I think that he could come up with a great setting and then just tell a story in that space, whether it's a beach where you get older, or an apartment with a fake baby in New York with Servant, or this community in the middle of the woods with a village, or in this cabin. And I think he is so great with asking the question, what if something crazy happened in this one particular place? I really loved it. I think I'm probably somewhere between you guys in that, like, I'm with Sean and that I would have liked a little bit more of a period of uncertainty. I would have liked to have ping-ponged back and forth a little bit in terms of, I kind of felt like about halfway through the movie, I made a decision about how I felt, who was right one way or the other. I would have liked to have gone back and forth a little bit more on that. Again, which kind of goes to like, this is one of the few movies in recent memory where like you could have let it breathe. I mean, do we know the runtime? Is it a tight 90?
It's like 90.
It's under 2 hours.
Fast. Yeah, it felt really fast. It moves.
I was in my car at 8:40.
Yeah,
that's a 7 o'clock start.
That thing moves.
Yeah.
But
IMDb has it listed at 1 hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah,
it didn't even feel that long. Like, honestly, if he'd let it go to 2, I wouldn't have been mad about it. But I really loved it. Say what you want to about Shyamalan. I think all of us here are Shyamalan defenders. I didn't particularly love Old, but to me, like Old and Knock at the Cabin, they're perfect examples of like, maybe you don't super love it, and maybe you don't love it to the degree that you loved some of his earlier stuff, but you gotta give the dude credit. He is swinging for the fences and trying to give us something original. For me, this is a really solid 4 out of 5, and I'll take a 4 out of 5, like swinging for the fences, like that maybe doesn't quite get there original piece of thinking, even though this is based on a novel, as opposed to a dude playing it safe and just kind of like ticking all the boxes that he knows that we love.
Before we move on, and we're going to move on to the Blend game, which is M. Night Shyamalan Blend. And so I want to ask you guys before we transition into this, do you feel like he is a name that draws the audience?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I think our
This is a comeback
generation
movie.
knows him, but does the generation behind us know M. Night Shyamalan?
They do now because, first of all, this one's getting great reviews. And I think this is going to be a reinvention for him in a way. But weirdly enough, all those numbers I just gave you, I mean,
Yeah.
he's been
People are tuning in. Yeah.
crushing it at the box office. And it's interesting. Josh Horowitz said this when we were in New York. You know, this is a guy who was on magazines as the next Spielberg.
Yeah, right.
And that pressure must have been absolutely insane.
All right, we're into the Shyamalan Blend game. And Jakey, why don't you kick us off of telling us your all-time favorites M. Night Shyamalan movie?
I hate to do this. I really do. And I apologize for being that guy. But for me, it's Sixth Sense. I just recently rewatched it on Thursday before going out to New York to talk to him. And it's just such first of all, I know he was nominated for director and for screenplay for that
Was
film.
he?
But I mean, he was.
Oh,
in
wow.
fact, that was really crazy. Yeah, it was nominated for Best Picture, but he wasn't a producer on it. And what was crazy is that like that movie that for that award season really wasn't like a major contender, and then came out the gate with picture, director, screenplay, supporting actress for Toni Collette, and then supporting actor for Haley Joel Osment.
That scene in the traffic jam.
Yes,
is
100%.
Best scenes.
And it's just, I mean, the thing is that like, yes, I know that these days, like when people bring up The Sixth Sense, it goes hand in hand with talking about the ending.
Sure.
But that movie is so much more that like the ending makes it better and it makes the ending better. Like the two go hand in hand. It's not a you know, it is so, I mean, it's one of Bruce Willis's best performance. I honestly think it's 100%. Probably my favorite Bruce Willis performance. And Sean, you could speak to this more than anybody.
Hey.
The relationship you
can check for Sean's thoughts on bookshelves across the country.
Yeah. I think you misstated Butch from Pulp Fiction.
Oh,
I honestly, I go with, now granted, like I prefer Pulp Fiction as a film, but in terms of performances, I go with Sixth Sense, because that's the relationship that he has with Haley Joel Osment. You know, like a lot of actors would speak down to a kid, but I feel like he talks to Haley Joel Osment on like such a personal level that makes that relationship so special.
That Haley Joel Osment performance, dude.
It's genius.
Shouldn't
genius. Oh my God.
A kid shouldn't be
it's
that
insane.
Good.
It's insane.
A child should not be that good.
Yeah. And you know what's so funny is that this is probably when I watched it the other night, it's probably the first time I've watched it in my 30s. So it's been a few years since I just turned 35. So it's been a few years since I've watched it, and it's the first time that I got tears watching it. And there's there's something about it that's like heartbreaking and beautiful all at the same time. It's about this idea of like letting go, but letting go not needing to be a sad thing, that like you can still appreciate like the time that you had together and finding like the purpose in like the dark moments in life. This idea of like, I'm getting chills talking about this idea of like Haley may end up seeing these ghosts for the rest of his life, but he seems at such peace at the end of the film because he realizes that if he just listens to them, and this idea that like they disappear after they're helped, and that and the moment that like, and I don't think I truly even realized this until I watched it this time, is that the moment that he helps Bruce, like that's why Bruce Willis disappears at the end, because the kid helps him. And it's just Cole helps him and realize, and I think he tells him just talk to her when she's sleeping. And that's the moment when he both realizes he's dead and then realizes like, okay, I can move on. It's beautifully directed. It's the screenplay is pitch perfect, chock full of beautiful performances. It's one of the single greatest horror films ever made. I think we forget that it falls under the horror genre, and it's just, there's, you know what? And we talk about this a lot. Like I hate picking like someone's first big movie as my favorite or their best, because there is this implication that they haven't been as good. It's like it's telling someone they peaked in high school. But how do you beat one of the greatest genre films of all time?
I think Spielberg's chasing Jaws.
Honestly, like, well, Jaws is
Oh,
it's
Not his first
made,
movie, but
he's made better movies than Jaws. He has. I can name 10 that he's made. That are
you can
better
name
than
10.
Jaws.
You can name 10 Spielberg movies better than Jaws.
You want me to right now?
no, I don't want to do that.
Neither does Daenerys.
I definitely know 10 off the top of my head that are better than
Jesus.
Jaws. I love Jaws, but it's not his best movie. Schindler's List is better than Jaws. Saving Private Ryan is better than Jaws.
Okay, well, you said don't listen.
All right.
No, they're not.
But Jaws is an amazing blockbuster.
Yeah.
But he's made better movies.
Kev, are you also going Sixth Sense?
No. I'm going with Unbreakable.
There you go.
Listen, Unbreakable to me was a film I didn't really necessarily appreciate until I got older. And a lot of that had to do with, you have when a filmmaker comes off of, I equate it to kind of Quentin coming off of Pulp Fiction, even though Pulp wasn't his first movie, but then Jackie Brown being the next movie after his major breakout. Reservoir Dogs was a big one for him, but Pulp Fiction was like, I guess you guys would agree, like that was like his momentous, like massive film. And then to follow it up with Jackie Brown, which was very different than Pulp Fiction, people judged Jackie Brown against the quality of Pulp Fiction. Very different films. Jackie Brown to me is
being disappointed by Unbreakable when it first came out. I remember falling into that trap.
It's
I'm guilty
because
of that.
Because you assume and you want a certain type of film from a filmmaker that you've just experienced, and you hope that movie lives up to that. Right, which is why Once Upon a Time in Hollywood took a little bit to come around for me, and now it's my favorite Tarantino film. Is because it was such a different departure from kind of the Quentin movies that I had watched over the years. And Jackie Brown's become one of my favorite Tarantino movies of all time now, because I'm away from the mindset of my love for Pulp Fiction and going into it expecting more of that. Sixth Sense is a masterpiece, but Unbreakable, the twist ending of Sixth Sense was so shocking that you couldn't watch Unbreakable without thinking about what was going to be the twist or what was going to happen. There was, in my mind, I had a hard time like experiencing it, not thinking about, what's going to happen? What's he going to do? Is all this real? Blah, blah, blah. Now that I've looked back on Unbreakable, as I mentioned in my review of Knock at the Cabin, I'm just blown away by the stillness of that movie. It's really an interesting film. It's a really great superhero movie. Prior to having all these superhero films we have now, this really, much like Kevin Smith was integrating superhero aspects into his filmmaking, it was cool that a filmmaker at that time was playing around with comic books in a sense. To see, obviously I think Samuel L. Jackson is outstanding in that movie, as is Bruce Willis. The concept, the trailer for that film. Do you remember the trailer? When because it's the majority of the trailer is the train, right? He's on the train. Yeah. And they tell you like this one person survived. Isn't it someone like, it's like a voiceover, the guy, you have no scratches on your body. How is this kind of possible?
Isn't it Shyamalan? Isn't Shyamalan the doctor?
Is he? I don't know.
I think you're right. Yeah.
That's cool.
I feel like Shyamalan's the doctor in that, because he's definitely the doctor in Sixth Sense.
Yeah,
but I think he's the dog, because he's the one that says something about like you don't have a scratch on you.
Wait, was it?
I remember the
train,
trailer,
or was it him sitting on the table in the hospital then?
Well, no, you're in the hospital in the trailer after the train crash, and then and so I just remember that film and not liking it, but not appreciating it, and then as I've gotten past that part of it and I've sat down and watched it, it has just become my favorite movie of his. It's masterfully directed. It's an incredible film. Every single frame, every minute of it is fantastic. And I just think the score, the cinematography, that opening sequence, it is just an amazing movie. And I love that film, and forever at this moment is still my favorite movie of his to date. And I think Sixth Sense probably is the best movie he's ever made. Though I'd argue Unbreakable is right there. I love that.
I would say Unbreakable is top 10 superhero films of all time.
It's an outstanding
And the elevator
film.
pitch on it is brilliant. The elevator pitch being like, what if Superman didn't realize he was Superman? Like that is such a great elevator pitch.
The scene where he actually gives in to his son and starts lifting weights in the basement to see how much strength he has.
He puts the cans of paint on the
phenomenal. Because up until that point, he just shoot his kid and essentially said, you know what you're talking about. And then he finally gets into it like, oh, wait a second. How much more weight can we add, sort of thing?
I actually think Bruce Willis, personally, I prefer him in Unbreakable to Sixth Sense because
Interesting. I mean,
he's
There's two. I mean, you're talking
great in the Sixth Sense. Great in the
11
Sixth
out of
Sense.
10s.
But Unbreakable to me is probably like top 5 Willis performances. Like it is, you know, it's a different performance, obviously, because of the nature of the story and what's happening in the Sixth Sense versus Unbreakable. And Unbreakable, his character's a little more in the forefront, I would argue. So it's a different situation.
I can't tell you guys because I'm going through the process of watching every Bruce movie ever made for the purpose of this book. Like I'm writing capsule reviews for each one. And the way that I'm doing it is I'm trying to do like 2 or 3 of these, you know, direct to video ones at the end of his career. And then I'll go back to an early one. And it's like being given a glass of water in the desert to get to a performance where he's engaged and cares and is turning on Bruce Willis, the personality. And it's just like, oh God, it's so refreshing. Like I went from some of the really, you know, dreck of the Detective Knight trilogy, and then I threw on Last Boy Scout, and it was like, oh.
How many more of these direct-to-video ones do you have to go through? I feel like you've been watching them for a while.
15 maybe, 10 or 15.
You have 15 more?
Many. Are there any more waiting to be released? Because I know some of them were like very recently.
I think they're all out now. The last one was something called Wire Room, which is on Tubi right now. And then, of course, I still have sitting on my table here the Pulp Fiction reunion of Paradise City. With John Travolta and Bruce
Is it
Willis.
directed by Axl Rose?
No, but I wish it was. It should be. Okay, so I mean, I'm not gonna.
It was Slash. Sorry.
Go against you two because those are some of the 2 of the best films in his filmography. So I'm going to use the time to shine a light on a movie that I think gets overlooked or maybe isn't in the conversation of great M. Nights, which is The Village. I think The Village is terrific.
Love The Village.
I think that the atmosphere that he creates for The Village is outstanding. I think the performances by both Joaquin Phoenix and Bryce Dallas Howard are phenomenal. Bryce Dallas Howard is so damn good in that movie.
Yeah.
And it was Night at a stage in his career after Signs and after Unbreakable and after The Sixth Sense, where everybody was anticipating a twist and was kind of like, had their arms folded and like, oh, what's it going to be this time sort of thing. But the story of the creature coming in from the woods and how it was affecting this community was compelling enough. And then Bryce Dallas Howard's character going into the woods to get the medicine for this man who she'd fallen in love with is such a compelling story. And I was so in on the romance of that and the fear and it was gripping this community. That when you got to the twist, it legitimately floored me. Like I did not expect
me too.
The ending of The Village at all. And I
didn't see that coming at all.
Crapped on it, and I think it's a really smart twist. I thought it was a terrific.
But okay, let me ask you this, and you're talking to someone who I do love this movie, but I also have one foot in the camp of thinking that the twist kind of ruins any rewatchability factor for me.
I disagree. It actually makes
a hard time rewatching it, knowing what I know.
I know what you're saying, but I'm still all in on the stories of Joaquin Phoenix and Adrian Brody and Judy Greer and Bryce Dallas Howard.
Sure, and I guess I'm going to address a spoiler right here and now. So if you haven't seen The Village, skip forward 60 seconds. I think I went into that movie and probably still do most fascinated with the monster aspect of it. The idea that there are monsters out there. Yeah. That's what I loved then. And that's kind of what I and to this day, I always wish that like the plot was that they thought there weren't monsters, but because there is a moment where you think like, holy crap, like, are there monsters?
Yeah.
And then when it turns out that there's not, it's just sort of like, I have a hard time.
Jake, it's society. We're the monsters.
Sure. Well, as a 14-year-old that went and saw that in theaters opening weekend, that didn't do it for me. Okay, end of spoilers.
Okay. I just think it's a terrific movie. I think it's extremely well made. I think it Knight doesn't get enough credit. And we talked about this in the first movie of the work he gets from his actors. You guys were just raving about Bruce Willis and the performances that Knight gets out of him. Toni Collette obviously getting an Oscar nomination. Haley Joel Osment, the way that we raved about that. I think Sam Jackson does some of his best work when he's with him. I think James McAvoy is incredible in Split and Glass.
Deserved an Oscar nomination.
And he's
Split.
like, Knight works so well with actors. He really does. And I just don't think he gets enough credit for that. I think he's the twist guy. And there's so many things that he does that I think are outstanding. So The Village, but also, of course, Unbreakable, and also, of course, The Sixth Sense. So Connor Brosnahan, Troy Candy, and Matt Caroni went with Unbreakable. Savannah Sanders said Signs. Ariel Pace, Louise Anthony went with The Village, and Johan Sidler said The Sixth Sense. So thank you everybody for participating. Yes, Jacob.
Sean, you just mentioned your love of Shyamalan working with actors. The very last question we asked him in the interview is, because I know you haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, is, there are a handful of actors that he's worked with multiple times, including Joaquin Phoenix and Bruce Willis and Rupert Grint most recently. And so I asked him who is the actor he only worked with once that he wants to work with again. And he said, I was not expecting it. Sarah Paulson, who I honestly forgot was in Glass. But I mean, she's brilliant in everything, but I honestly forgot she was in Glass. So hopefully they get to work together again.
Also, M. Night's best cameo or most shocking cameo to me is Signs.
Signs. Oh my God. That's
the concept of that character being pitted up against a tree and being held together by his truck. Sean, do you remember this?
I don't remember his cameo in Signs, but I haven't seen Signs in a long time.
He's the one who killed Gibson's wife.
Yeah. It's a character almost.
Did he?
Yeah, and he drives the truck, and and the truck is what's keeping her together against that tree. And once they remove the truck, she's gonna die. It's one of the most disturbing.
And it's actually a good, and sometimes it's a cameo for the sake of being a bit, but there's a moment, he has a moment with Gibson where it's an actual, this is a role, and this is a performance he has to give. This is like a shell of a man. And it's also, remember, he's the guy who before he drives off the truck, he's like, by the way, Father, I've got one locked up in the kitchen, or don't go in the kitchen. There's one locked up in there. And then he peels away. He's the one who has the alien locked up in his house. It's a great performance.
Watch Signs.
I love Signs. I love Signs. Love Signs.
What would you guys have said if he said it was Mel Gibson that he wanted to re-team again with? Would that be strange?
It'd be a headline for Cinema Blend.
It would be a headline for Cinema Blend,
yeah.
M. Night's cameo in Unbreakable, Split, and Glass is the same. The character's name is Jai.
Oh, that's funny.
And according to this website, I'll give the credit, Screen Rant, they say he first appears in an unnamed character in Unbreakable, whom David Dunn realizes is a drug dealer thanks to his powers of extrasensory perception.
So he's not at the stadium.
Yeah, I think I have to go back and watch
for next week. And part of this ties into what we were talking about earlier with rom-coms.
Sure,
you can reach out on Twitter using hashtag #MovieCoupleBlend.
Oh, that's a good one.
Well, it's Valentine's Day. We're coming up on Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
that's fun for people in relationships.
But it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It could be.
I wanted to point that out. Movie Couple Blend. It just allow that to be as vague as it needs to be.
There you go.
Jonah Hill and
Gabe?
Yeah, absolutely. We're probably going to be in a movie at some point. Jonah Hill and Michael Cera in Superbad. They're a great example of the bromance that's there's love there.
Thelma and Louise.
There's a ton of them. So what's your favorite movie?
Oh my God.
Couple?
Oh my God.
Sundance.
Doesn't have to be a rom-com. Doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic relationship. But yeah.
Oh my God.
Whatever that means.
See, now I'm thinking Bad Boys 2.
Oh, it's not a bad choice.
Oh, I think no. Oh my God. I might have mine.
All right. So anyway, let us know your pick via email at ReelBlend.
Oh my God. Maybe that one.
Hey, you know what we haven't read on the show in a really long time is a review. Someone sent us a review.
Well, Kevin's mom has been busy.
I know that people are listening to the show, and new people have been listening to the show. So if you made it this far, if you're past the blend game, then you're a real one, as we like to call it. So we have a notification crew that chimes in every Friday morning. But what about reviews, for God's sakes? Write something nice about us, and that way we can read it out loud.
You know, a good way to get people to write something nice about you is berate them into doing it.
What the hell are you doing with your time?
Listen, this is how
Where do you have to be?
How I choose to talk to our audience. They understand. That is tough love. This is tough love.
Yeah, this is pop pop.
It is tough love.
This is pop pop.
Oppenheimer.
Man, all right, the key is so much nicer.
Our next premium episode is going to be the IMDb game, which we haven't played in a long time.
It's been a while.
And that is always a lot of fun. Check the description below.
It makes no sense.
More information on how to sign up for premium. In the meantime, follow us on social media where you can see Kevin's interview with M. Night Shyamalan and a lot of other things that we put throughout the week. We are at Jake's Takes, at Kevin McCarthy TV, at Sean_O'Connell, at Gabe Kovach, and the show is at ReelBlend. We'll be back next week.
This is a really quick dichotomy of we often joke about the difference between Kevin's interviews and my interviews because Kevin will go real heavy and deep with these people and like rip their souls out. And then if you go to my Instagram, it's like, hey, Dave Franco and Allison Brie, you want to look at my Bumble profile? So a wide range of interviews you'll find over our social media channels.
Exactly.
Well, Kevin's Bumble profile will be shot on film, so.
Yeah.
All right, until next week.
True. Yeah.
Oppenheimer.
Hockey pads.
Poppenheimer.
Oppenheimer.
Pop Oppenheimer.